Hey there. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. What you're about to read is a story that's deeply personal, touching, and a little beyond what we can even imagine. It's about Armanda, a woman who experienced something life-changing during her vacation in Thailand, something that took her on a journey she never expected. Grab a comfy seat and let's dive into this incredible experience together. On March 29th, 2025, Armanda had no idea that her life was about to change in a way she couldn't have even dreamed. It all began like any other day on her vacation in Thailand. She was staying in a cozy bungalow with her friend Katie on the beautiful beaches of Phuket. It was the kind of morning where everything felt calm and peaceful. Katie's voice broke through the quiet. "Armanda, wake up! It's already 7 a.m. The sunlight streamed in through the curtains and the fresh scent of street food drifted from the streets, beckoning them to start their day. It was the perfect way to end their time in Thailand. Still half asleep, Armanda groggily muttered, 5 more minutes. But it wasn't long before she got up. The day was meant to be simple. Grab some coconut water from a little shop, take a walk on the beach, and enjoy the last few hours of their vacation. The air was warm, with a gentle breeze that made the heat feel manageable. Everything seemed perfect. But little did Armanda know, this would be her final day on Earth. As they wandered down the beach, past colorful market stalls and people laughing and chatting, they joked about how nice it would be to extend the vacation. The world felt alive and real, and Armanda had no idea that she was about to step into an entirely new realm. By the time they reached a beach cafe, the temperature had risen. The sun was blazing down, and customers were dripping with sweat as they sipped their drinks. Armanda and Katie relaxed with their mango smoothies, enjoying the peaceful surroundings. The locals smiled and waved at them, and for a few minutes, everything felt normal. But then, in an instant, everything changed. The ground began to shake beneath them, just after the sound of a small thunderclap. The cafe walls cracked, glass shattered, and people screamed in panic. Armanda's heart raced as she looked around, terrified. She tried to protect Katie, but before she could react, the ground beneath her feet cracked and the cafe collapsed. Dust and debris filled the air, and Armanda felt herself frozen in fear. Katie screamed her name, but Armanda's body wouldn't move. The world around her was nothing but chaos, and as the building fell apart, Armanda felt pain like never before. The dust in her lungs made it hard to breathe, and she felt like everything was slipping away. Despite her panic, her body became limp, unable to respond. Her chest was heavy, and every heartbeat echoed in her ears. She wanted to stay awake, to hold on, but the pain and fear began to fade. As she whispered, "Stay awake, just hold on." Something strange started to happen. The noise, the confusion, it all started to blur into nothing. A deep, calming quiet filled the space around her. The pain that had gripped her body slowly faded. The weight on her chest lifted, and her body felt strangely light. The fear she'd been holding on to dissolved into peace. She was no longer afraid. She simply closed her eyes, feeling the debris and dust fall around her, but not caring. Something had changed. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Armanda!" It wasn't a voice she could hear with her ears, but something deeper. A voice that seemed to surround her, gentle and powerful all at once. A warm light began to pull her in, and though a part of her wanted to resist, she couldn't. The light was like nothing she had ever known. It was inviting, welcoming, and it beckoned her forward, despite all her ties to the world she knew. In the midst of that light, she saw him, Jesus. His presence was more beautiful and real than anything she had ever encountered. It wasn't just his physical form. It was the love, the warmth, the peace that radiated from him. When he spoke her name again, Armanda felt as if the entire universe was holding her in that moment. She felt no pain. She didn't need her broken body anymore. She was free, free from all the doubts, all the fears, all the regrets that had weighed her down in life. Her soul felt lighter than air, and as she moved closer to the light, the weight of the world disappeared. She was in a place beyond time and space, where there was no need for explanations. Everything simply was. The light around her was alive. It wasn't just a thing, it was a presence, a being that understood her in ways she never could have imagined. It knew her thoughts, her joys, her deepest fears, and most of all, it showed her nothing but love. There was no judgment here, only an unconditional, absolute love. As she continued to move toward the light, Armanda felt surrounded by voices, soft, comforting, and full of understanding. They spoke without words, sharing experiences and emotions that she could feel in her very being. There was no confusion, no fear, just peace. And then, as she approached the source of the light, everything became clear. She understood her purpose, her mission. She knew that this wasn't a place of finality, but a place of freedom, a space where love, life, and peace were infinite. And there, in the center of it all, was Jesus. His light was so powerful that everything else around her seemed to bow in awe. He didn't need a body. He loved himself, and his presence overwhelmed Armanda's heart. She felt seen. She felt known. And most importantly, she felt loved in a way she had never felt before. In that moment, all the regrets, the mistakes, and the pain of her life faded away. All that remained was love, unconditional, pure, and endless love. As she stood there, surrounded by warmth and peace, Armanda knew one thing for sure. There was no need to fear what came next. She was home. "Armanda," he said. He exceeded me. A forgotten tune stirred me. He spoke intelligently and generously, making me weep. "I have always known you," he said. "Even before you were formed, I knew your heart." His statements brought up horrible memories, judgments, and long-buried occurrences. I felt respected despite my errors. "Want my look?" he inquired. Our world altered instantly. My optimism vanished. My life returned. I saw his view. I saw how kind remarks made others smile. My carelessness caused damage. My life altered strangely with little deeds. Every minute mattered. "Why show?" I asked, despite disbelief. "Because you must understand," Jesus continued. "Every thought, deed, and choice counts. Love is never wasted. Neither is hate. Your acts are sensed far away." Despite my doubts, he said my prayers helped. Simple kindness affected others. Suddenly, evil emerged. I saw my careless words, squandered opportunities, and repressed love harm. I had no idea how my actions impacted others. Jesus stated, "Your world is more connected than you know. Every soul is connected. Others benefit from what one gives or withholds." Then he disclosed something surprising: universal hate, division, and disaster. Most importantly, I saw its foundation. No wars or catastrophes, just little alternatives, an incapacity to forgive, using fear to escape love. The billions of choices created humanity's storms. They cried. "Is there hope?" I asked. Christ became blind. "There is always hope," he said. "It begins within. Regain love." I must relay his warning. "Tell them," he said. "They can choose, but time is short." Words of Jesus transformed light, like entering a shared memory ocean. Uncontrolled time. I saw the past, present, and future. Contrary to my history, I always was. I still felt joy, sorrow, fury, and remorse. A deeper thing existed. I thought my choices influenced others. Everything I say and do has unthinkable consequences. I imagined laughing with my mom in the park. She smiled and felt warmth from me. I wanted to forget hateful, irresponsible statements. We saw more: felt it. I caused all this suffering. Every tear I caused. It addressed me. Why show? I whispered, asking again. Jesus stayed. So you understand, he said. You know decisions matter. But I saw more than pain. So much love existed. Small moments grew. I smiled at the exhausted, unhappy cashier. Although she never considered it, my sympathy gave her strength. I prayed late at night, thinking no one was listening. Spiritual strangers were gold-lit by their prayers. After love and forgiveness beat bitterness, healing waves spread. Though weightless, I kneeled in awareness. I cried. I could have done so much more, I said. My shoulder was touched by Jesus. In sympathy, he saw. You still can, he said. Life evaluation continues. Mentally preoccupied, I ignored others. My phone scrolled forever, talking without listening. I preferred comfort over empathy. Each moment was little yet significant. Outside my control, I enjoyed solitude. Every assumption and judgment I made polluted society. Spirit was there. Their vigor shaped life. Resentment ruined my relationships for years. Hidden sentiments kept me from loving. Quite the opposite. Though difficult, forgiveness removed resentment. Shaken by sight, I met him impoverished and unexpected. While walking, I remembered my shame, too busy and unpleasant to stop. I didn't think much of it thereafter, but this life review showed me what I missed. His prayer minutes before I passed him confirmed his realization, not for money. His absence cost him. The reply never came. They cried. Too late again? I whispered. Jesus spoke softly yet harshly. It is never too late to choose love. The vision altered again. I smiled at strangers, elementary school teachers, and my morning coffee barista. I noticed their change. My kindness went far. A tired barista was buoyed by my thanks. That joy lingered. She soothed a frightened customer later that day. Like a stone in a peaceful pond, the customer's family was kind. Similar things occurred during neglect. I am hurt by criticism. My criticism helped a victim rethink. It flowed. Relationships and decisions hurt. You have far more power than you realize, Jesus said. Love is the most powerful force in existence. Every act of love strengthens the light, but every act of neglect or hatred gives strength to the darkness. I noticed our secrets soon. They existed. Everything I said, did, and thought counted. I had hope despite grief. I discovered little kindness matters, late but not too. I showed affection. The light dimmed. I felt something approaching as warmth increased. Though placid, Jesus' eyes conveyed suffering. There is something I must show you, he said. The earth may have existed as space twisted around us. The sky is stormy. Fires consumed trees, flooded cities. Desperate individuals cried. Besides the pain, I was amazed. It was vacant. Cruel individuals existed. Empathy was gone. Fear replaced love. Discontent poisoned. Human greed, hatred, and disdain created earth. Not earth, but people caused this pain. Jesus spoke authoritatively. This is not punishment, he said. It is the natural consequence of a world that turns away from love. They cried, "Can it stop?" He nodded slowly, his gaze distant. Yes, but time is running out. There was an unsettling emptiness in his voice, as though he had already accepted the inevitable. A shift occurred, something beyond my comprehension, but it was clear. Our future was hanging in the balance, determined by the decisions we made now and those we would make in the future. Tell them, he urged, his voice filled with an urgent clarity. Tell them to choose love, choose forgiveness, choose compassion. What happens next will hinge on the choices made today. The vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving me standing alone in its wake. A strange emptiness took hold of me, as though the experience had stripped me bare. The message felt important, something I couldn't keep to myself. But why? Why had I been the one to receive it? It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about all of us. Something had shifted inside me, and I realized how fragile life truly is, how quickly things could change, and how often we fail to understand the long-term effects of our actions. I wanted to make a choice, to change the way I lived, but it wasn't just me. It was all of us who needed to choose differently. I understood then, life is fragile. We often move through it without a thought for the consequences of our decisions. I longed for change. We all did. In that moment, it became clear to me that we were meant for more than just surviving, more than just going through the motions. We were meant to awaken to a deeper truth. Jesus loves me, I thought, a quiet certainty filling my heart. I wanted to awaken others, to show them they were not helpless, that they too could choose a path of love and understanding. You are not helpless, he had said, but awakening begins within. It made so much sense. Spiritual awakening isn't a complicated process. It's about choosing love, even when it's hard, forgiving when it feels impossible, and seeing others as souls, not enemies. So many of us miss these opportunities every day, small moments where we could have chosen better, been kinder. I saw how often I had ignored my instincts, let anger control me, or excuse myself from helping others. Despite everything, I cherished the love that lived within me. I understood now that every act of kindness, no matter how small, made the world a better place. Humanity's awakening will not come from a single, grand event, he said, his voice steady. It will come from countless small choices made by hearts that remember their purpose. This thought lingered with me. I had often wondered about religion, about how people say prayers or perform good deeds, thinking of them as small acts that somehow connect heaven and earth. But I still had questions. But how will they know? I asked. How will people see the truth? Jesus smiled softly, his eyes filled with understanding. You will tell them, he said. His words resonate deeply within me. We each have a role to play. We can fight the darkness in different ways, some through words, others through actions. It all matters. I felt a sense of purpose, a clarity about my task. I was drawn to the light, to the love, to the warmth. But it was fleeting. It slipped away, leaving me with a feeling of loss. The light was gone, and I knew I had to return. No, I whispered, knowing that I couldn't stay. I had to go back. The world needed me, even if I didn't understand why. Then Jesus spoke again, remember. And with that, everything shifted. Pain, a searing, overwhelming pain. The world collapsed around me, crushing me under its weight. Breathing became impossible. The sounds of sirens and distant shouts blurred together as I struggled to stay conscious. I was back. "She's alive!" a paramedic exclaimed. Strong hands pulled debris from my body, and though my vision was blurry, I could hear their frantic voices. They called it a miracle. My heart had stopped. I had been clinically dead for 7 minutes, yet here I was, alive. Despite the pain, my mind was clear. The vision, the message, it was still with me, as though it had been burned into my soul. "Can you hear me?" a paramedic asked, but my throat was dry and I couldn't speak. I nodded weakly. They were astonished. My heart stopped for 7 minutes. They were ready to give up, but then my heart started again. They called it a miracle. I couldn't explain it. I just knew that something had changed within me. Hours later, I awoke in a hospital room. The beeping of machines was constant and the sterile air felt heavy. My body was broken, but I was alive. The doctors were baffled. They couldn't explain why I was still here. "You were clinically dead," one of them said, shaking his head. 7 minutes. We were ready to call it. But then your heart started beating again. What had I seen? What had happened to me? Why had I nodded when they asked if I could hear them? There were no answers, but I knew something profound had occurred, something that I couldn't fully explain. But I understood one thing. I had been given a second chance, and with that second chance came a responsibility. A nurse entered, changing the sheets with a weary smile. "Some people call it a near-death experience," she said nonchalantly, "but it sounds like something more." The days that followed were filled with questions. Reporters came, eager for answers. The doctors needed to run more tests to confirm that I was physically okay, that there was no brain damage, that my survival was something more than a medical anomaly. But despite their tests, I felt something different. I could sense it in the air, in the sounds around me, in the way I experienced life. Everything seemed brighter, more alive. I sometimes felt like I was glowing from within, like the world itself had shifted in some unexplainable way. I thought I had died, but I had come back, and now I was here to share what I had learned. When I finally looked in the mirror a few days after being discharged, I saw something new. The reflection was familiar, yet different. I knew. Jesus had told me to wake up, to remember, and to remind others of the possibilities they had within them. How could I remain silent when I knew the truth? Dying had revealed that truth to me, and now I had to share it. Returning to the world felt strange. It looked the same, but it wasn't. I could sense the changes in the air, in the colors, in the sounds. It was as though I had been given a new lens through which to see everything. It started in the hospital. The nurses, their tired eyes and gentle hands, became real to me in a way they never had before. I felt their exhaustion, their compassion, their humanity. The doctors were no longer just professionals in white coats. I saw the stress, the burden of their work. These were people carrying weight that I had never noticed before. One morning I surprised one of the doctors by asking, "Are you okay?" He looked at me, surprised, before smiling faintly. "I'm fine," he said, but I could see the fatigue in his eyes. I didn't need to push. I just knew. I could feel the energy in the room, the heaviness and the lightness, the hope that lingered even in the darkest places. Hospitals, places of pain, were also places of hope. The vision ended, but its message remained with me, guiding me through every day, reminding me that awakening isn't a single moment. It's the sum of all the small, deliberate choices we make. And I knew now that I had a role to play. I had returned to share the light, to remind others that they too could awaken. And maybe, just maybe, by waking up together, we could change the world.